Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton. Along with me is our ice plunge princess, Bethany McChesney. And this episode is brought to you by Duonamic. All right. What do you want to hit first?
I think the big news is what's the Tough Mudder going to Saudi.
Well, let's go big news then, because then we can skip the other stuff if we get run out of time. So you got to hit the big thing. Screw this bearing the lead. Everybody does so much chit chat before, even us. Screw it. Let's go right into it. Okay. Tough Mudder Infinity in Saudi Arabia, supposedly, although I haven't heard any numbers yet, biggest prize purse in OCR history. And
Yeah.
everybody seems to be jumping on.
Yeah, do you get the sense that people are having their way paid and people are being paid to post videos saying they're going?
I haven't heard of anyone saying they're getting paid to go yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if certain people got invites. It did happen it was like really fast where people were, it's kind of, hey, here it is. And oh, I'm going. Like, so you might be right. Maybe they got the heads up a little early and got brought on.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that jumped to me though is when I think biggest prize purse in OCR history, I think back to when Atkins won 100 grand for getting I think it was 110 miles at World's Toughest Mudder, or him and Albin, they shared 100 grand for doing the team one, and they got, I
Oh,
think it was 105 miles or whatever. And then I know he think another time he got 50 grand for doing the 110, something along the lines. So the point is, this is, like, if it's bigger than that, and that was the same company.
wow. Yeah. So, well, that was obviously when Tough Mudder was owned, not by Spartan.
No, that was pre-Spartan days. That was like, it was actually the one I was at, but it was right then they had a Tough Mudder Pro team, which consisted of Ryan, Lindsay, Hunter, and Allison Ty.
Oh, okay.
And so they had the toughest series, which was paying out like 5 grand or 10 grand per race. Like they were shelling out the money, and might have been part of their downfall, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had that, and then they were shelling out 25 grand for each one of the TMXs they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
RIP TMX, please come back. Um, yeah, so this
Wow,
thing,
so this one could be big.
yeah, it could be big. I mean, like some of the names. I mean, who I've seen Chris jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
Calypso
Rylan.
Sheridan,
Yeah. Rylan.
Rylan, um, Mark Battress,
Mm-hmm.
Kate,
Ulrike.
Ricky Evanson, Katie Knight. Um, I would be stunned if Atkins doesn't jump in and possibly, like, I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah, it just kind of depends on how he feels about the whole situation. I haven't heard anybody speak about it though.
So yeah, this is kind of the way it's like. I'm sorry, I'm getting at like pardon me. So it surprised me that everybody's jumping on so fast at promises of a lot of money without any specifications, because these are some of the same people who are upset with Spartan slash Tough Mudder slash Deca for not having paid out promptly, which is understandable. Would be pissed off too, right? Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming this money is coming from Saudi. It's not coming from Spartan.
That is my guess too, and I'm guessing that's the same thing these other people are thinking. And
Mhm.
at the same time, I also think that, I mean, VJ touched on this the other day on the Running Public, that because he's going over to Abu Dhabi to race in Spartan World Championships,
Mhm.
and he said, 21 grand is worth the wait and worth the risk, right?
Yeah.
So maybe these people are thinking the same thing. I mean, hey man, we all need money, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it seems like that's all, like people are just seeing the dollar signs right now, and they're not really considering like all the other issues around it here, like
Yeah,
going to
get into it.
like
You're the
Saudi
you're
Arabia.
the you're the Middle East expert that we have, or as close to it as you've at least lived out there.
Yeah, I just like I'm a bit shocked, to be honest, that everyone is just like, okay, here we go. We're gonna go to Saudi. Like and I mean, Saudi's kind of lately, and it's similar to Doha, where they've been really, really trying to acquire these big international sporting events. Um, and it's kind of it's a way for them, I think, to kind of hide the fact that they still have such terrible discrimination and laws against women and the LGBTQ community. And even the latest one with Saudi was they acquired the 2024 FIFA Women's World Cup, which came with like super shocking to the FIFA world because the women weren't really informed. But same thing, like Saudi dangles a whole lot of money, and then it's like the organization has a hard time passing it up. So and with that one too, like it's illegal to be LGBTQ in Saudi. So what they've had to say to the women was basically you have not like nothing overt. Like you have to basically hide who you are in order for it to be acceptable here if you're going to come and compete. So, and I haven't dove too far into what like the women are saying about it and if anyone's protesting going. But then, and even right now, Saudi's trying to get the 2027 track world championships. And as of right now, they're being denied it because of what happened in Doha. So Doha hosted the 2019 track and field world championships, and there was like zero spectators.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh,
so
go.
same thing. So they didn't really make money, and again, people did protest it as well. And I mean, even just with like climate in these countries, also like Doha, I know the marathon, something like a third of people ended up dropping out with heat stroke. Like, and they ran it starting at midnight, like in the coolest time, and in October, like so the winter. Like there's just so many issues, and like temperature aside, but I mean, supporting a country where women and men are completely not equal at all, sometimes it just seems like we're just going to go and kind of turn a blind eye to this in a way, like continuing to like show up to these events where, I mean, and Saudi especially, like, I mean, Dubai is different, and especially in the last 10 years, it's become a lot more liberal since Sheikh Zayed passed in 2011, who was like the founding father of the UAE. But Saudi still, only a year before they had the track and field world championship. So in 2018, women were allowed to start competing in sports. 2018. And in 2018, they were allowed to attend sporting events. That was 5 years ago. Like, and now, oh, we're just gonna start going, like we're gonna send all of these athletes to Saudi to support this country. Like there's still this like women are under a guardianship in these
Mhm.
countries. And Saudi is not changing this law. So you like as a woman, you're basically you have a guardian until you're 18 and then you're married off. So then you don't really have a say in very much at all. Like you're basically under a man's control, whether it's your father or your husband, which, mind you, as a female, you could be one of four because men are still allowed to have four wives. Women can only have one husband, but men can have four wives. So like there's just there's just so much still that it just I think what Saudi's trying to do, and the term is called sport washing. So they're trying to bring in these sporting events to try to hide that they still have all this stuff kind of going on within like their legal system.
So, I mean, you obviously know a ton more about it than me. Being over there and having that, the closest I could do, I watched a documentary the other day, and it was a recent one, just to get, and I mean, stuff like women have only recently been allowed to try to get driver's licenses.
So
Um,
they only just in the last, I don't know, last year they're allowed to drive,
yeah, yeah, and the one thing that caught me too, which was kind of funny, was it's about 6 times as expensive for a woman to get a driver's license as a man.
but they can remember too, they can only drive if they're given their guardian's permission.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's not in Dubai, I had to have my husband's permission to drive.
yeah. And this is Dubai, whereas Dubai is
Much more liberal.
much more
Yeah.
liberal. So, and that's kind of the thing is, I think probably a lot of people are thinking when they hear Saudi Arabia, they're thinking, oh, it's going to be the same thing as Dubai.
not. It's not.
No. So how,
Yeah.
as someone who, again, you've lived over there, you've been over there, let's just say you were in someone, a contender type status for an 8 hour Tough Mudder. Would you consider going over there? Like, would you consider it worth the risk?
Like I wouldn't say there's risk as far as like they're not going to imprison someone who goes
Mhm.
there. You know, even I think if you go and you're part of the LGBTQ community, like unless you're uh like waving your rainbow flag on the sidewalk, you're not going the what is more likely to happen is you could be deported. Like it wasn't uncommon when I lived in Dubai that people would be deported for various reasons. Like we even Christianity is illegal in Dubai as well as in Saudi, but like we were still allowed to attend a church as long as it wasn't like a building that stayed there. It would be like in a school or something, but you were not allowed to like carry around like anything other than a Quran. Like you couldn't ever be seen like speaking about your faith to a Muslim because it could be seen as trying to convert. So as a religious person, like you have to be very careful too about like open signs of your faith if it's not Muslim.
Like a big
Um,
ass cross tattoo.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just saying, as an example, a lot of people have crosses as tattoos and stuff like that.
yeah. Like it is frowned upon, but again, as an ex, like as someone who's like they want you to be happy and comfortable there, right? So they're gonna turn away from a lot of things, but within the sporting world, um, and you'll probably have to get some sort of a visa that claims you as a government delegate or something like you're gifted an invite from the government, which protects you a little bit. But yeah, even things like PDA is completely illegal. Like I when I, and I like Dubai again progressed a lot in the last 10 years. But when I lived there, like I couldn't hold my partner's hand in public. And Saudi hasn't changed too much. Like I don't know. Even there's things like hand symbols that are illegal that we kind of joke around like that are you could get in really big trouble for.
Oh, what ones
There's
are
so
there?
many
Come on,
what's that?
flash some hand signals. Flash them.
Like don't give well, there's different like we like if you give the middle finger, there's different ways of giving the middle finger there that's like extremely
Oh,
offensive. Mhm. Just
just saying.
little things I don't know, but I like ultimately the biggest issue is just and so I haven't really thought deeply if I would go if I was like an ultra athlete. It's more about um I'm more disappointed in that our organizations are going to support a country after they do um like these big things to support LGBTQs. And you know we like we have like equality in our sport and then we're going to go and support a country and take their money, you know, so basically they waived their big chunks of money in front of Spartan Tough and Tough Mudder, and they kind of decided well the money is more important, so we're gonna go and we're gonna bring our event here to support you as a country and kind of forget about the way that like the disparities and the discrimination against women and LGBTQ.
And it's kind of funny when you put it that way. And I was just thinking in my head, it's like, so the whole ethos of, do hard things, be tough, stick to your principles, all that stuff. But yes,
Mm-hmm.
we have a price.
Right, we can be bought, yeah, and that's just kind of how
Which
I
I
feel
have
about
said all
it.
the time. I can be bought. I'm fine with that. I've been saying that clearly the whole time. That's fine.
Yeah, and maybe this is a way also for um, Spartan to make up for not paying its elite athletes. So if they can kind of get these large sums of money from the Saudi government, then it kind of brushes over all the money that they haven't paid them in the last 2 or 3 years.
So like I'm gonna try to put a positive spin on it. One, I think
Mhm.
hopefully, like you're right, hopefully, yes, it does. And they pay the athletes and they give some amazing athletes a chance to make some money and to participate in a great event and all that. That's my hope. And I can kind of look at it as, hey, this is a chance to use people and people's funds who maybe aren't that great at people and use them in a way where we take from them and kind of that sort of thing. I don't know, like it's so foreign, and I mean that in a literal sense of not understanding that culture, not having for me any concept of what it would be like to be there. So it
Mm.
just is so hard to fathom and to understand.
I
To
also wonder, like, even with the dress that people wear when they race OCR, like it, as far as I know, women are still not allowed to show their shoulders and their knees.
Well, I think I saw something about some tennis played over there,
Uh-huh.
and they were
And they
wearing
allowed it?
yeah, and they were wearing regular tennis outfits.
That's so interesting. So when
So
it comes to sports, then it's fine. Because when I lived in Dubai, if I showed my shoulders in the mall, I'd be kicked out.
yeah, but I mean, look at Dubai when they had Spartan there, and when they have the CrossFit people there. You know, CrossFit. I've seen them do a little more cover up, like some of the women wearing more like full t-shirts as opposed to just the sports bras, but still pretty short shorts and stuff. And I didn't notice any different dress when Spartan was racing there.
Well, but I like I've said, Dubai has become much more
Yeah,
liberal in the last 10 years. I'm talking this was 2011. So I
yeah.
know that they allow a lot more than they used to, but I don't think Saudi has progressed like the UAE has.
No, and again, from my only source of information being that documentary is it seems to be they're chasing the tourism. Saudi is trying to get that tourism in
Yeah.
there, and that's why
Yeah.
they're laxing a bit on the hard stance on some of the stuff. So, and I
Yeah.
assume that's probably how it started with Dubai too, right? Well, we want to get some tourism in here, so we'll go easy. But I think from the showing that I saw, seems like they would let tourists get away with it, but not
Right.
locals. Locals seem to be
Yeah.
a different rule.
But I think that's their way of trying to show the world that um to kind of let things go with what they've done with
Hmm.
like putting women activists in jail for fighting for women's rights. Like, so, let's forget about what we're doing because we're allowing these people to come and,
Hmm.
they can, because that's what people see.
Yeah, yeah, and it did have that in there where some of the women they had talked to were put in jail for
Yeah.
various
Even the
treason.
laws that they just changed, like the laws about, women being able to drive, women being allowed to attend sporting events, like the women that fought for that are still in prison, some of them.
Yeah, and what was it? Did they? I was trying. I lost it, but it was along the lines of they had, like you said, women that were fighting for the stuff, and they were put in jail. I don't know. I lost whatever that thought was. That train went away. It'll come back later on.
Like, have they let them out after they
Yeah, like
changed
oh,
the
sorry. Now I remember where I was going. Also, it was pointed out that a man in the area, especially a devout religious man, feels it's his responsibility to come and essentially chastise you as a woman if you're not dressed appropriately, if you're not, you know, is that the kind of thing? Like, did you experience anything like that when you were over there?
like I never pushed the rules.
Yeah.
So um I never would have gone out. The only time So when I ran in Dubai, and so most of the time it's like 40 degrees Celsius and over, so like 100 Fahrenheit. So I would run at 4 in the morning before the sun came up, and
Mhm.
I would run in a tank top and shorts, and I would run down like a very unused road but buses would drive by and men would yell at me. Yeah. But I would look for cops because I could have been arrested. More than likely, they just would have like told me to cover up, given me a fine or whatever, and went home.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was essentially breaking the law. But yeah, it was uncomfortable. But at the same time, it was extremely uncomfortable to run in too much, like in
Mhm.
t-shirt and shorts down past my knees when it's 40 degrees. Like it was 40 degrees at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, and it's not a dry heat. You're still on the Arabian Sea. Like it's humid as heck. So
Well, I mean,
yeah. And the other thing too was I found even like I would have my picture taken all the time, like
Mhm.
in really uncomfortable, like right in my face.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Mhm.
When you're
Yeah,
that.
but again, women are not, we're not equal beings, right? By law, we're not. So there's like people, and like culturally, it's not, we're not the same. Like we're owned by. So it's just, it's such a different way. I don't know. The thing is though, is you're gonna go, they're not gonna interact much with locals anyways. You'll interact with the people that are involved in the race and like who's like the people running it, and you're not really gonna interact with locals.
No, and the hoping, I'm sure, on both of our side is that it goes amazing and everybody gets lots of money and everybody has a great race and everything goes good. Um, I got into concerns about it for other things. Actually, obviously there was all that stuff is primary. But then I started thinking about the race, and if you're putting up a ton of money, well, lately, since 2017, tough world's toughest mudder and all that stuff, any of the endurance races and anything Tough Mudder's done that's competitive, well, it's kind of wishy-washy and only partially competitive because they have like, skip obstacles. It's not well enforced, right? It's not
Hmm.
real. And my thought is, if I'm going over there, if I'm a guy like Mark Batres and I'm going over there and I'm looking to cash in, and he's a guy who's going to be a favorite, being as he's got the most miles ever at WTM or whatever. He's Mark Batres. He's damn fast. I want to know that this thing's going to be run under the right rules,
Yeah.
and put on properly. And that would be one of my biggest concerns because Tough Mudder can do weird crap. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's great fun, but when you're talking a lot of money on the line, it's
Hmm.
yeah, you gotta knuckle down and put on a proper race with proper
Hmm.
penalties and proper judging and proper rules. And that concerns me. I'm like, oof, I hope so. But it is a 8 hour infinity, so 8 hours, many laps as possible. We haven't really told people what it is. Um,
And it'll probably be run out in the desert, like somewhere
oh
outside of
yes,
the city. Yeah. So
which
that's a good
does
way of kind of sheltering them from things too.
which does give me hope they can make huge penalty loops. You like well, I when I did in Vegas, penalty loop for failing Funky Monkey was 3/4 of a mile. That's a penalty loop.
Hmm.
You know,
Well, as long as it's fair.
none of these 200-meter suckers do your obstacle.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So I mean, that's I guess the biggest news. There's other stuff too, but see, we're at the point now where we got to go to the guests, so we're out of time. So we will cover it next time. We will talk about Dylan Scott, High Rocks, or
Mhm.
overseas, and we'll probably talk about my weekend next weekend or whatever. But for now, we got to go to our guest. Um, Top female Canadian High Rocks competitor. All right. Mike and Maria Fecik.
There it
Smash it. I'm done. That's it. We're done.
That's it.
Well, that's a peak. That's pretty much as good as I get. All right. So yeah, for those who don't know, Maria, and we said just before, would be, I think I'm safe in saying this, the top female Canadian High Rocks time. Is that
For
correct?
right now, yeah.
For right now. Who are you expecting to beat you?
I don't
Sounds kind
know.
of
Hopefully
pessimistic.
someone. No, of course not. My goal is to continue to improve, but you never know. There's some pretty good females out there.
All right. So why don't we start kind of how you guys, we're not going to go too deep back because we don't want to be here forever, but how did you guys get introduced to High Rocks and kind of where did you come from?
Okay, so we have an online coaching business, The Holistic Athlete, and one of my clients is still fairly big into high rocks, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna try this high rocks thing." It was about 4 years ago, and said this might be up your alley. I was kind of burnt out from triathlon, so I said sure, but I had never done anything, not a deca, no Spartan races. I was pretty much swim, bike, run, and that was it. So I said to Maria, I want to give this a try, but I'm not sure that I want to do this alone. So we went into New York City the first year and did pretty good, qualified for Worlds. And after that, we were like, we're hooked. we're going to do individual. We did individual. Maria smashes every race, and I kind of just tag along at this point.
Or are you running your doubles like when I run with Beth? You just kind of take some glory and that's it?
Yeah. Usually she's like, come on, for the first couple runs, I'm good. And then she's like, all right, you got to keep going. It's time for you to push a little harder. But in singles, though, like we both did well in open races, and learned a whole lot. And now that we're racing pro, it's just a whole different level, especially for the guys. Like I don't know how they're running as quick as they can into these stations.
We did some rabbiting at the North American Championships last year, and just trying to keep up with those guys for one lap is just like, it's crazy. We're handing off every lap, like, go, you go, you go. We're just trying to keep up. The pace is insane.
Yeah, last weekend in Spain, the first kilometer, I was like, I think 11th or 12th into the ski, and I was like, I did a 3:20 kilometer for that first lap, and it's too quick. It's just wild how fast they're able to move and be as big as they are too.
No, in fairness on that, a lot of people that did the 320 kilometer dropped off quite a bit.
Yeah, I would agree with
like,
that.
I mean, even like I saw guys out front and you could tell, like, I don't know that guy, I don't know that guy, I don't know that guy, and they're just gonna fade away. But then there's some that come out of nowhere that like oh, yeah, they're legit, they're real.
Yeah.
So what do we go for that? So you guys went over there, and Maria, why don't you kind of fill us in on your race over there? Because you were going over there hoping to secure a spot in the Elite 15.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how did everything go? Because
So originally my plan, I actually hadn't planned to go to Spain, but until they switched kind of the qualification approach, which was the majors, I was, like you said, number 18. So I was 20 seconds off from making the Elite 15. So I was like, let's try to give it a shot. So I went down there with the intention of qualifying, and unfortunately I couldn't hang on. Like you mentioned in your previous podcast, I was second into the lunges. My running was the best it's ever been at that race, and then I fell apart in the lunges, and so now I know that's my area that I need to develop, and then holding through tilt until wall balls. But yeah, so we went down with the intention of qualifying, and unfortunately I didn't get the mark, but it was a really tough race. And even in the last 2 years, I've seen people, the times for women's racing and pro has just like really started to also get lower and lower and lower. So qualifications now becoming harder and harder.
well, yeah, like Beth, what would have been a qual, like 110 last year? Probably would have been a nice time, a decent time.
Well, races were won in 106, like at the top for a while. So
Yeah, and now if you're not sub 10, well, what is it? 10 is 106 something is the top 15, is it not?
yeah.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
105.50, I think is Tara, and she's the
yeah.
15th spot. And they used our time from Worlds as well to qualify. So I'm like 106.06. So I guess it's like 16 seconds from.
That said, I'm pretty confident you'll get the roll down to compete in Chicago.
Yeah, you think so? I don't know. We're still gonna go anyways because we have some athletes from our class that are competing. So we're gonna go and support and coach and stuff, but that'd be really cool because we're gonna go anyways.
Yeah, well, I
Um,
mean, you say 106 is where we're you're probably sitting like, is it 18th? Is that what we were at? You said so. It's the 18th. I mean, there's a lot of European women on that list, and there's a lot of majors to come in Europe. That's a lot easier for them to get to, i.e., Sweden coming up very shortly after Chicago in December. So, yeah, I would be stunned if 3 people on that list didn't go.
oh, okay.
So, I mean,
That gives
like
me some hope then.
yeah, like if we think back to last year in North American Championship, I know there was a good roll down on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree. I said the same thing. I think that, we didn't want to leave anything to chance, but at this point, I think that there's no way that all of those Europeans are going to come over here, hopefully. And I think she has just as good a chance. When we were comparing times with, some of the world athletes last year in the Elite 15, like she's right there, like could have competed with them and been just in the same spot, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah,
So how did
absolutely.
you find the course then in Spain? Because we had heard some people say that it might have been a bit of a slow course.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, like running, I didn't really have a problem. Like there wasn't like the congestion. I know mixed doubles was crazy in terms of congestion because my coach competed in that one. But the only thing I would say is like I really tried to reduce my rock zone time. So I wouldn't jog. I'd actually start running out of the rock zone to hit almost pace as soon as I got out. But I would say the only thing is when you are entering the station, they had things lined up like rowers, like sets of 20 rowers down. So you're running really far for an extra like 15 seconds to get to your rower, and that starts your rowing time as soon as you cross that line. So I'd say that's probably one of the only pieces that I found challenging. And then,
The
yeah,
sandbags and wall balls too.
yeah, the sandbags were a lot smaller than I think what we were used to. But at the end of the day, it's my like Achilles heel. It's the one that I struggle on usually anyway. So I wasn't surprised. And then the wall balls were a little different than what I was used to. But from a course setup, I thought it was well designed, but just the long straightaways to get to your station um, were pretty long. Other than that,
Was it a bit of a surprise for you with Spain having a reputation of having fast courses? And you kind of like, I mean, Rich Ryan took the same shot. And I mean, anybody who was doing the math and paying attention, if you're going to search for a quick course, probably would have took a swing at Spain somewhere. So did that surprise you when you got over there that it wasn't quite as fast a course?
to be honest, I didn't go with the intention of thinking it was a fast course because I know courses like they try to set up as best as possible, and it just happens to vary because not every stadium or place that they do it is going to be the same. But I remember people saying, "Oh, European sleds are easier." When I was pushing the sled, I'm like, "This doesn't feel any easier." Neither does the sled pull. It actually does not feel great. So I'm like, I don't know what these people are talking about. But it would have been nice because I know you guys are talking about like quick marathons in your last podcast. And
Yeah.
again, every course is different and you shoot your shot, like you said. But yeah, I didn't find there was any.
I think the biggest thing was the running for Maria was more consistent because the course was basically 2.5 laps, which is
That's
awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
So that works to, I think, a runner's advantage of having, nice long straightaways versus having to like go out and just like New York City was just, you were just turning circle after circle after circle. It felt like,
Was that the one that was originally going to be outside and then they made
yeah,
it inside? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you were probably better off anyway that way, but
yeah.
Yeah. That was, I think that's where I do well is when I found out the course was longer and less laps because I can get ahead on the straightaways. So that was kind of like my tactic was to run the runs really fast. And so I'd run the runs, come into the station, either second, third, whatever. And then let's say I was a little behind, but then I'd catch up on the run again because that's one of my stronger suits. But going back to what you said, I didn't find the course any faster in Europe.
no, it looked like Australia was the place to be this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were getting like 1 minute sleds and things like that, like people doing like 1.5 minute sleds or crazy crap. It was,
Wild.
I don't know. People seem to think that maybe it's when the sleds are new and the carpet's new that they get the best.
The best bang for their buck, I guess, or travel.
I I got no idea. We've been harping for since High Rock started to get rid of the time qualifying and have placement qualifications, but
I think that's something you said as well, right?
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. It just makes sense. Come on, Mintra. Jesus. Um, so if you do get to run in Chicago, how do you feel about running on the grid?
Um,
Because
Less
that's likely going to be a shorter because they'll well in Worlds they made it shorter. Well, last year at World at Europe, sorry, North American Championship, and we're there, Beth. They had it the full course still, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait, no, it was a grid.
it was like a
Like
half.
part of it.
but the
Yeah.
run was the full.
Yeah, yeah, but like some parts of it were part of the grid because like the rower
Mhm.
and the farmer's carry and the sleds were all in the same spot.
So
But
so my
Yeah.
wonder is this time will they make it like it was last year, or will they make it like they did with Worlds, where they condense it into that small 4 lap deal?
Yeah, I remember I
Game
actually
changer.
judged at North American Championships last year, and I
Okay.
judged. Remember, my athlete was Vivian
Okay.
Tafuto, and yeah, there was a lot of pressure to like make sure everything was set up quickly.
Uh,
Like the 3 minutes, you're like trying
mhm.
to quickly make sure like the sleds are in place, the ropes are changed, and stuff like that. It is kind of nice because there wasn't too much of a rock zone, which also helps your qualifying time or your finish time as well. I will say, but then there's also the piece if they do shorten the run, it's also harder to run fast 4 laps, in my opinion, versus 2.
Oh, yeah, yeah. If you're just going for time, for sure. Or if you're a running specialist as opposed to a power specialist, that definitely can get in your system now. Yeah, so that will be very exciting. Beth, you're going to Chicago? Have you guys decided?
Yeah, we're going to Chicago.
There you
Yeah,
go.
Yeah. Are
yeah,
you gonna compete?
I am.
Amazing. What are you gonna
Yeah,
do?
I'm gonna give the pro weights a try.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Very good. Well, we'll be there for sure, regardless. So we'll be
Sweet.
there to cheer you on.
Nice.
Well, now I'm gonna have FOMO. That's just mean.
I'm sorry I asked you.
You guys compete regularly together
Usually,
In DECA.
in
yeah.
DECA?
And Becca.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
In High Rocks we go different ways. I run with my
Yeah.
wife in High Rocks and
Yeah. Well,
I'm not.
because with High Rocks, you run together, obviously, as you know. So you kind of have to be with someone that's like closer to your running abilities for pairs.
Yeah,
So,
I'm I'm more power, less run.
mhm.
gotcha. That's what I assumed she
Yeah,
meant.
Yeah.
absolutely. That is exactly what she was saying. Not that I was slow. So you guys have the gym is it officially in Burlington? Is that the area?
Yes, so we don't own the gym. We rent the space from it. And yes, it's in Burlington. It's called Evolution Fitness.
Okay. So you guys are putting on something that I have been bitching and griping and wanting for a long time, as we just discussed, kind of not that fast, and I don't like to run that far, but
Mhm.
something that I affectionately call a half rocks, which is essentially half the distance. So give us a little fill in on how this came to be. And you guys are an official High Rocks affiliate. And if I'm not mistaken, probably the first in Ontario, maybe in
Yeah.
Canada.
We were the first in Canada, definitely the first in Ontario. Our buddies out in Montreal have a gym that is also an affiliate now. And I know they're popping up here and there, but yeah, it was kind of cool to be the first for sure.
Yeah. So tell us about and I know it's not officially called a half rocks. What are they calling it? High Rocks Sprint, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're calling it a High Rock Sprint. We could have named it anything. Like, it's not something that's mandated from High Rocks itself. It was like we we thought it would be a really cool event to do. So we were like, sweet, let's do this. And then to be able to also offer it at a for free for people, we thought it would be really cool to just kind of partner with a charity. So we partnered with Socks for Souls to everybody's entry is basically a pair of socks or a couple of pairs of socks. And you bring those and you get to race. Yeah, it just kind of happened and we were like, oh, it'll be great if we could get like 30 people to do this. And then we were like, uh-oh, there was already like 45 people in like 2 hours. And then within 36 hours, we were at 60 people plus another 20 on a wait list. So it's just like, it just kind of blew up out of nowhere. And I think people in the area really are looking forward to it. I mean, we're having people from the area, but then we're also having people that are traveling, from other gyms or out towards London area or the other side of Toronto, just to come to it. And yeah, it's really blown up.
And that is something that High Rocks HQ should take notice of and bring us the real big full deal here. Like
The full deal.
Yeah,
Toronto.
we're hoping it helps with that exposure too, right? And our friends in Montreal are doing the exact same competition as Mike mentioned. So we talked to Adam, who is one of the people spearheading it in Montreal. And we said we want to do the same thing in Ontario. And then that's kind of how the idea came. We had thought about it for a while, but then we were trying to figure out how to do it at our gym because there is space limitations and things like that. That's why I can only take a certain amount of athletes. And when we started it, we were like, okay, let's see if we can get 30 people. We thought it'd be mostly our members, but it's actually mostly people outside of who come to our class, which is pretty cool. And
So
yeah,
Is the running within the gym or is it outside?
It's outside. So we actually have a nice paved trail behind the gym. So it's a 500 meter, so 250-meter out and back. And then we have some stations that are going to be outside as well as in the gym. And then we're going to have about 20 volunteers that are going to do high rock standard judging, and just making sure stuff's to standard, making sure that people are getting no rep if they're not doing it appropriately, just so people get the as much as you can resemble the high rocks experience for them and to see what that type of racing environment is like. So yeah, so it's helpful that there's that trail behind us, which is paved and pretty easy to navigate. It's one straight out and back.
Awesome.
Nice. And maybe you can just go through exactly what the zones will be, because I mean, some people don't know. And what kind of weights are you doing? Are you guys doing the pro weights, the amateur weights? So just run through the layout if you could.
Yeah. So all the runs will be 500 meters. We're going to make sure of that. So beyond that, it'll be 500 meters of skiing, 20 meters of a sled push. The sled push is going to be 200 pounds for women and 300 pounds for men. So a little different, but that also includes the sled. We wanted it to be so that it is pretty fast. Like I want this race to be like a sprint. The sled pull is going to be the other 20 meters. So you'll push the sled basically one direction for 20 meters, go out, do a run, and then you'll pull the sled back for 20 meters. The sled weights for the pull are going to be a little less, 180 pounds for females and 250 for males. And then after that, burpee broads will be kind of a slalom. It'll be a down, back, down, and back. And then 500-meter row. We're going to do 100 meters of farmer's carry. The weights for that are going to be the open weights. So it'll be 16 kilograms per hand for females and 24 kilograms for males. The 50-meter walking lunges are going to be 25 pounds for females and 50 pounds for males. So I think that's open weight again. Mm-hmm. And then 50 wall balls at open weight. So it'll be 100 pound or 10 pounds for females and 14 pounds for males.
So the burpee broad jumps, that's going to be 40 meters, I assume?
Yeah, 40 meters. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm looking at that, and the first thing I'm thinking is those sleds could be really, really fast because, like you say, you're just going straight across. So if you're having a good push and you can just roll right in it, you can just keep mowing in.
I think it's going to be super interesting to see how fast people can go with the light weights like that, but then also have to transition from pushing a sled that quickly to back out to a run to coming back in. Like, I think that, as much as High Rocks is like running a half marathon at 5K pace, this is going to be like running a 1 mile race at 800-meter pace. It's going to be really fast, especially on the guys' side, I think.
That's why I'm going to do a really, really late wave.
We'll put you in the top wave.
when everybody else has already gone home, that's my time to shine.
You don't want to race Jesse Bruce.
I've raced Jesse before. Notice the word raced. I just raced. There was that's it. That's all. I just raced.
Yeah,
I was with him for at least the first 300 meters. Well, two maybe. And there was an obstacle, so I'm okay there. So.
Yeah, and we're going to split it up. We're going to have the females go first, just like you would in High Rocks. So females will all go off first. We're trying to put it in waves so that we have the fastest people going off first, and then it just kind of trickles down from there. And then the same with the males. The males, I think we're going to end up 2 waves of fairly fast guys, and then trickle down from there. And then cool thing is we're going to give away a free High Rocks race for the winners of male and female.
Nice. There you go. Oh, Beth just lit up there. She's like, I could use one of those.
Well, I haven't paid yet for Chicago.
Just hang tight.
Yeah. So I think that'll be kind of neat too. A couple other prizes here and there as we bring on some other vendors and stuff. I'm hoping to secure some other stuff for, second and third place as well. So something that we want to try and do at least once a year, if not more. I mean, with this kind of outcome, I think we could probably do it every 3 months or at least during like, spring, winter, or spring, summer, and fall.
What about what are the odds of hosting something like a PFT during the winter months? Is that a possibility for you? Because like I don't know exactly what your gym setup is if you had the treadmills or whatever, but is that a possibility to host a PFT?
Yeah, we could probably host a PFT as well.
We have like done a PFT style in our classes. That was one of like the benchmark testing we would
Mhm.
do. We moved away from that specifically.
Just because we didn't think it really
It does.
showed
It's not the same.
high rocks. No, it's not the same because somebody could do a 25-minute PFT and come back and do like, a really good high rocks race. And then they're saying, well, you should be racing as a partner or open, and this person's already racing pro. So I just don't know that it's a great benchmark test. It's not necessarily what we see as being something that would be an intro to high rocks, where a half rocks or a high rocks mini or sprint or whatever you want to call it truly is that.
Yeah, I thought the PFT was one of those things where it's something that is good when you can't do something else. When you don't have the space or when you don't have this or you don't have that, and it's like it's a very simplistic entry level thing, right? So it's good. The only thing that even seems strange is that there's push-ups in it. I've never understood why they did that, but it is what it is. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, yeah, parts of it, you're kind of like, well, why are you doing 100 burpee broads? You would do that in a race, but then you're doing push-ups and yeah, it's good for gyms to kind of like low barrier to entry and like, to kind of go around and kind of show what High Rocks has to offer. But at the same time, like you're only doing one run and it's at the very beginning. You should do a run at the beginning and maybe one in the middle and one at the end just to kind of make it a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, I think it's essentially just not indicative of kind of like the effort level that goes into high rocks. But overall, I think it's a fine benchmark test. But yeah, and it's challenging. People find it tough.
It's a workout.
Mhm.
It's a good workout. All right. So all that great stuff said about this magnificent event, you can't come because it's sold out. Sorry. Piss off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad turning people away, or putting them on a wait list, but we just don't have the space to do it. And again, our capacity, we're gonna cap it at 50, and now we've capped it at 60.
I might try to push that a little bit more. We're going to do a dry run and see if there's any like way that we can add some extra waves. It's just that we're sending people off every 15 minutes. And with that amount of time, we're going to be doing 15 waves of people, probably more like 16 or 17 waves of people. So if we can, I'd like to add more waves and get everybody off of that wait list that's on there. I just need to see the timing because I'm just worried about the timing with the sleds. If we can make that work, then and I can cut the time down to like 7 minutes or even 8 minutes, something like that, then we can probably add a couple extra waves in there and have it work. The class this last Sunday that we did was very similar to a High Rocks mini or actually a High Rocks sim, and it worked perfectly. So my hope is that we can run this just as perfectly and it'll kind of work itself like a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say though, and as an assumption, you could always use more volunteers though.
Always could use more volunteers.
So if you are on that wait list, my suggestion is show up, volunteer, and you never know who no shows. And
Yes.
that's a great way to get a spot. That's always been my experience with volunteers. You usually get preferential treatment when a spot shows up. So
100%.
That said, anything else you want to shout out or anything else? Again, the name of the gym, how you guys can be contacted.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, he looked like he was gonna say something. So.
No. Yeah. I mean, the gym that we work out of is Evolution Fitness on New Street in Burlington. The classes during the week are Tuesday and Wednesday. We do a track workout on Thursday in the evening time, and then we have a Sunday class as well. Each one is different in the way it's set up. So we do Tuesday is all strength. It's based around, deadlift, squat, bench press, and push press or strict press. And then we involve some of the other, High Rocks movements in there. Wednesday is a super intense class where we are primarily just working on VO2, like just really hard efforts with rest in there. Track switches between compromised runs, hill running, and straight track runs. And then Sunday is kind of our flagship class where it's more like a 75-minute workout with a lot of compromised running in it. So yeah, we have things split up quite a bit. People can always contact us at Holistic Athlete. I send you our email address too, so that you can throw that in there if you want. And then we're on Instagram at Holistic Athlete FC and Holistic Athlete FC classes for both our online coaching and then our in-person classes.
Awesome. And actually, since you do say you have your friends in Montreal with the gym, what is the High Rocks gym in Montreal? Because we do have a lot of people in Quebec that listen as well. So
yeah. So Adam is it's Olympia
Performance.
Yeah.
In Montreal.
Awesome. Beth, you got anything else for Mike and Maria?
No, thanks so much, guys, for coming on. And congrats again, Maria, on a great performance in Spain. And we look forward to seeing you in Chicago. And we will see you in a few weeks at your High Rock Sprint. I'm super excited.
Yeah, so we're excited to see you both and meet you both in person. So
yeah, it'll be great. Beth, make sure you're working on your speed because it's going to be a fast race and I'm gunning for you.
I love it.
Dave.